there, everyone. I'm Gord Dunbar. I'm the minister at Kincardine United Church, and it's good to be with you once again this week. If this is your first time joining us for a fireside chat, this is part of our ministry at Kincardine United Church, where I just ruminate about something that has touched me in the preceding week from a Christian perspective. I use imagery, story, video, prayer, and blessing. The one other thing I like to start with is to allow my weird sense of humor out of the box for a time. For example, this is how I tell time during this season of Advent. As someone who loves correct grammar, this cartoon caught my fancy and made me giggle. There are, however, other ways to tell time. And then there are the terrible puns that I love. The Black Eyed Peas can sing us a tune, but the chickpeas can only hum us one. Yes, that's a real groaner. And here's another. And still another twisted pun in these salad days of puns. I don't want to brag, but yesterday I wore something from 25 years ago and it actually fit. It was a scarf, but still, let me be positive because the scarf fits so well. I'm looking forward to walking in the snow, or to quote a song. And here's a joke for our American neighbors after their Thanksgiving celebrations this past weekend. Sadly, at least to me, the American commercial tradition of Black Friday has invaded us here too in Canada, reminding us to create our Christmas to-do lists. What if we were to rewrite our usual lists? For example, instead of buying presents, let's be present. Instead of wrapping gifts, let's wrap someone in a hug. Instead of sending gifts, let's send love. Instead of shopping for food, let's donate for food. Instead of making cookies, let's make memories. Instead of seeing the lights, let's be the light. For too many of us, we hustle around trying to make Christmas perfect, but we fail to live into the connective tissue of Christmas. It's about the relationships that we cherish and strengthen. What I remember most about Christmas is my nanny cuddling me in the living room love seat while we sang carols. I remember my dad carving the turkey as each of us waited patiently for our portion. I remember the homemade shortbread cookies shared with everyone. I remember the gift of each other. After all, Christmas is about traditions that connect us lovingly with one another, no matter how silly they may seem, because they live powerfully within us.
Salut, papa.
As delightful as that silly dance tradition is for the family in that French commercial, there are lots of people who find Christmas to be lonely and sorrowful. They feel the pressure to act happy and joyful when inside they are dying a little bit at a time. For those people among us, it is like too many lemons have been hurled in their direction. No matter how hard they try to make lemonade out of the lemons, they become quickly overwhelmed, stretched beyond their capacity to cope. They just need some time away from expectations, from demands, and from life itself. I watched a movie that starred and was directed by Robin Wright. It was filmed over 39 days in Banff, Alberta, and is titled Land. It is a powerful movie of Robin Wright's character who flees into the wilds of the mountains. Images flash on the screen of a husband and a son, yet she is alone. Her face is drawn and tense. She buys a cabin deep in the forested hills, refusing to keep a vehicle, stocking shelves in the cabin with canned food and lots of books on wilderness survival. Her name is Edie. Settled in after storing her meager belongings, she looks out for the first time at the natural vista, alone. She goes for a hike to familiarize herself with the landscape, pausing to meditate on a rock overlooking a valley. It is obvious the winter will soon arrive. On a hike the next day, she tries to fish with some basic gear, but she catches nothing, sighing and resolving to try again the next day. Weeks pass, and her foraging is a dismal failure. She finishes her last can of tuna and goes out front of the cabin to watch the heavy winter snows threaten behind a mountain peak. After a 4-day blizzard, when she runs out of firewood to keep warm, she struggles out into the hip-deep snow, looking to check her poorly constructed snares for game, any game, because she is starving. Snow slakes her thirst, but quickly chills her. On her way back, she slips and falls into a ravine, knocking herself unconscious. Night arrives as she struggles awake, managing to crawl back to the cabin, collapsing in the middle of her single room, shivering and bleeding inside her blankets, passing into oblivion. This is the condition in which the hunter found her. The hunter noticed that the smoke coming from the chimney had stopped, thinking he should check in on whomever it might be to see if they were okay. Discovering Edie's dire condition, he phones a nurse friend of his. They hook up an IV and nurse her from the brink of death. The hunter's name is Miguel. Edie pleads with him to not take her to the hospital, to let her stay alone on the mountain. Miguel nods and respects her wishes. He goes outside to drink in the sun's momentary warmth before leaving to get some supplies. Once Edie has recovered some strength, Miguel offers to teach her how to live off the land, to build a snare that will work for squirrels at first and then for rabbits. He teaches her to hunt, and after her first kill, he teaches her to skin and prepare what she has shot. With patiently firm teaching, she learns to live in the moment. She has learned to be okay with not knowing for sure what's coming next, but knowing that whatever it is, she will be okay. As the spring blossoms, Edie becomes more comfortable with Miguel, who continues to respect her wishes to live alone, although he checks in on her from time to time. One day, he comes to ask her to keep his dog for him as he has to go away for a while. Edie agrees. After all, she has gotten to know the dog during their shared hunting trips. Indeed, Edie has learned this lesson. Which is more important? Asked Big Panda. The journey or the destination? The company, said Tiny Dragon. Edie and the dog settle into a routine, but as time passes, she becomes concerned at Miguel's absence. In fact, he's been gone much longer than any other time since she first met him. She decides to stuff a backpack with all that she will need, taking the dog with her into town to look for Miguel to make sure he is okay. After a days-long journey, she arrives in town. Tracking down the nurse who healed her at the town hospital, she is driven to where Miguel is living. As she enters the house, she is directed to his bedside. Miguel is dying of throat cancer. He chuckles at the fact that he won a bet with his nurse friend as to whether Edie would come off the mountain to check his well-being. In his eyes, it is clear he knows how difficult it was for Edie to forsake her self-imposed isolation. In her eyes, he sees how big a difference Miguel has made in her life. When they first spoke of family, the only time, he shared that his wife and daughter had died in a terrible car accident. Edie had shared that she was without any immediate family. Then, in a moment of shared vulnerability, breaking the mutual agreement to keep each other's history private from one another, he tells her, I was the one driving. I used to drink a lot in those days. His eyes, however, seem curiously calm. Edie responds, my son and my husband were killed in a senseless shooting at the mall. My sister is my only family left. Miguel's breathing is getting raspier and more ragged. It is time for Edie to go. Miguel whispers to her, you gave me a way to die in a state of grace. Tears spring from her eyes as she replies, you made me want to live again. Edie leaves as the elders gather around Miguel's bed, smudging his dying body and joining hands and kneeling in prayer to the Creator. As the credits roll, the voiceover is Edie's phone call to her sister and her sister's astonished joy in response. A poem by Maya Angelou speaks powerfully about the wish each of the movie's main characters would have had for one another, despite their deep wounds. Perhaps Maya Angelou's words will speak to others feeling wounded. Into a world which needed you. My wish for you is that you continue to be who and how you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness. Continue to allow humor to lighten the burden of your tender heart. Continue, in a society dark with cruelty, to let people hear the grandeur of God in the peals of your laughter. Continue to remind the people that in each is as good as the other and no one is beneath nor above you. Continue to remember your own young years and look with favor upon the lost and the least and the lonely. Continue to put the mantle of your protection around the bodies of the young and defenseless. Continue to take the hand of the despised and diseased and walk proudly with them in the high street. Some might see you and be encouraged to do likewise. Continue to plant a public kiss of concern on the cheek of the sick and the aged and the infirm, and count that as a natural action to be expected. Continue to let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer, and let faith be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good. Continue to dare to love deeply and risk everything for the good thing. Continue And by doing so, you and your work will be able to continue eternally. This dance, choreographed to Coldplay's song Fix You, relates the complexity of such relationships with our neighbor. There is peace found when we realize, as Mr. Rogers once said, the more experience I've had, the more chances I've had to see the uniqueness of each person, the more I find myself delighting every day in the lavish gifts of God, whom I've come to believe is the greatest appreciator of all. Unlike the lyrics of the Coldplay song, there is no need to fix others. Instead, it is in relationship that we uncover our wholeness through loving one another. In response to our need in these hurly-burly times of Christmas preparation, I want to share with you a prayer written by Helen Malacote, who shared it through the Salem Institute website. Let us listen as we pray. I was regretting the past and fearing the future, O God. Suddenly you were speaking. My name is I am. You paused. I waited. You continued. When you live in the past with its mistakes and regrets, it is hard. I am not there. My name is not I was. When you live in the future with its problems and fears, it is hard. I am not there. My name is not I will be. When you live in this moment, it is not hard. I am here. My name is I am. Amen. I have an amazing tech crew who makes these fireside chats happen. Judy Zarubik is on the other side of this recording, ensuring the technology behaves, the slides happen when they should, and the videos proceed smoothly. Once the recording is complete, David Skinner and Terry Boyd swiftly upload it to our YouTube channel where you found us. Thank you to all three of you because it helps me relax and enjoy the journey. As we look toward this Sunday in Advent, which examines peace, I want to leave you with this blessing from Brother David Steindelrast. It is a blessing that finds peace in how we pause to sense the abiding peace within creation. May you grow still enough to hear the small noises earth makes in preparing for the long sleep of winter, so that you yourself may grow calm and grounded deep within. May you grow still enough to hear the trickling of water seeping into the ground, so that your soul may be softened and healed and guided in its flow. May you grow still enough to hear the splintering starlight in the winter sky and the roar at the earth's fiery core. May you grow still enough to hear the stir of a single snowflake in the air, so that your inner silence may turn into hushed expectation. Until next week's Fireside Chat, take the time you need. Goodbye.